My name is Terri Messenger, and I am
Hey, and welcome to Terri Messenger's Genius Zone. And, this is the place and the space where you are going to get your own free masterclass absolutely free.
I spend quite a bit of time with my clients, allowing them to shift from I need love to choose love. And in this stage, just briefly, it's all about conscious opening and awakening. It's when you take everything or look at everything from the prism of love.
Wow.
So it's basically you're assuming the best in people and everything and asking the question, if this is happening, it's not like I'm thinking badly or something else or whatever, or I'm a victim, but it's like, how can I love myself and still go through it? How can I not contract and close my heart and then fight against what's happening? It's actually, yes, how can I accept? Because love is all about accepting and accepting what is. That's why what is still, that's the beautiful part of the body, is that the body is the only system.
Well, hello to you, beautiful Jules. How are you on this planet Earth right now?
I am doing fabulous. How are you, Terri?
I am all the better for being here with you, and I'm just so excited to go through this exciting journey into the higher self and just really open up all of your gold that you have touched with me backstage and really help those women out there, because I believe you are speaking to very ambitious, passionate women who are ready to really connect into their body and their feminine energy and find their ultimate self-love. And you happen to be the expert. Yes. So I want to firstly, there's always a story. I always say there's a story behind everyone's glory. And, you obviously know very, very well, right from the beginning of time, that there was a point and a place where you really didn't feel that connection of love. And, your story kind of starts out in Russia, and then it moves to America, where you kind of did the corp in America and almost found yourself, on the burnout scale. And so you've really, moved through a lot of struggles and a lot of suffering. And now you are gloriously channeling Louise Hay. And you even look like the young version of her. So tell me about your backstory of being a little girl in Russia, what happened to you, and those elements that really left landmarks on your life where I guess you felt deprived of love and even abandoned.
Yes, well, thank you for having me here, and I appreciate your compliment. It's an honor to be compared to Louise Hay. That's where my self-love journey started. Well, just a quick story of my childhood, of how I perceived it. And it's also not that I was deprived of love, it's just how I experienced it from my childhood lens. So probably the big situation that happened, that my dad died when I was 5. So, and essentially, I didn't get to know him. And my mom was a single mother, and she did her best to raise me, also in the conditions that were somewhat limited. So when I became an adult child, so I used to be like an old child. Sometimes I was talking to people and they would just ask me like, how old are you? You're not supposed to know those things, but somehow I did. And of course, back then I didn't know, but from what I understand now about psychology, childhood, and divine intervention and all of that, I got a feeling that I'm afraid of being abandoned.
So you've developed that that feeling of abandonment, but also when you look at the old child, did you feel that you had to take responsibility for something beyond your years?
Yes, yeah, that's the feeling that I got and carried through that. So essentially, I became a good girl. So I had to do the right thing and I had to do good things so that I do not cause extra suffering for my mom. So, and yes, I love my mom, and that's how I've developed through life, so that you be quiet, you don't show off too much, you don't do too much, so that God forbid there is going to be extra suffering, and there is already enough suffering.
And yet, as a little child, imagine by all meaningful intention, parents are always coming from the greatest intention. And yet, you as a little child felt that it was your role to be stopping the struggle and really being in that kind of a space. And, what I'm hearing as well is that you took on that. And not only did you take it on, but you felt like you yourself were abandoned. And, that must have been a really, really hard place to be in. So if we were to kind of draw a thread between the inner child, because obviously this is your zone of genius today, the love element and bringing that all together. And had you have not gone through those elements, and I know there's going to be a lot of your listeners and those that are this is going to fall into their hands for the reason they need to hear this episode. But how did that inner child actually impact you before you came into your awakened self, into the best version, highest version of you? How did it kind of impact your life as you were growing up? What were some of the things that were going on for you? Like, for example, you spoke about moving from Russia to America. You talked about the good girl syndrome and having to almost shrink yourself and stay in that box sort of thing where you're staying, you're dimming your own light. How did that show up for you? What sort of things could you see in patterns were happening through your life as you were leading up to your awakened self?
Well, I think my main theme that came from it has become, I am not good enough. So I'm not smart enough. I don't do enough. I'm not good enough at whatever I do. So that's why everything that I've been doing was always coming from that energy. And I have a lot of certifications. I have a lot of degrees. I've done a lot of different things. But no matter what I did, I was never fulfilled. I was never satisfied. I was never happy. And I also hated that part of me. So that I had to hide her. That's why the hiding became look at me. I have all of this. And from the outside, and this is the clients that I work with, from the outside, I looked successful, I looked smart, I looked beautiful, and I got those compliments. But at that time, I was not able to receive them because I was not integrating that part of me. She was not part of me. I wanted to hide her. I wanted to avoid her. I wanted to push her away. I didn't want people to know her. That's why when people were saying from outside, oh, wow, you're so successful. Oh, this and that. And I could not receive it. I'm like, no, you don't know. I'm a flawed. And that's been my story, because as a child, from what I understand now, I did not understand then, of course, that I felt that I had like all of those sufferings that happened. They must have been because of me. There is something wrong with me. That's why if I'm good and I'm better, then everything is going to be fine. And of course, in Russia, we also did not have any type of like spiritual components or practices. So from what I understand now, I just felt very disconnected and separated, and also had that idea that there is just nothing good for me to happen because I am doomed, because Russian culture is more fatalistic. So, and of course, when I was growing up, so we still had closed curtain, and there wasn't really another world to compare to. But when I was already coming to my teens, 18s or whatever, so that's when Russia broke down, and we suddenly had this flood of comparison from other countries and all of that. So it was a kind of an interesting time. But at the same time, it allowed me to see that like there is another world and things can be possibly different. Somehow the higher self in me, I don't know how to put it nowadays, because back then, I don't know, when I go back and I'm thinking, how did I come here? Like, but I really believe that there was some kind of higher self within me, because now I do believe in soul and spirit. She just decided, no, this is not the life. Like, there's something else for you. So I don't know if I answered your question, but this is
you did. You definitely did. And so, obviously that turning point as well of you having, these experiences and you describing yourself is really what that woman out there is praying to hear, that there is actually a light at the end of the tunnel. And so when you came into that love component and you suddenly had to open up your heart and clear your chakras, because you do a lot of energy work, you came from a point where you were working 24/7 in corp, you're doing business and you were burnt out, and then all of a sudden you've moved into this new arena where you have completely transformed your life and you're making a stand for other women now. So, let's just say I come to you and I am going through exactly what you just said. I'm burnt out, I am overdoing it, and I'm really not living my life to my absolute fullest potential. What would be one of the first modalities that you would take me through, when you're talking in terms of the chakra, the inner child healing, and, all of those practices?
Yes, the first thing. So obviously I listen, and as we talk, I observe. As a somatics practitioner, I look in your eyes, in expressions and movements. And then I start picking up the most intense emotional charge, just again by observing the body language, the voice. And then in that moment, depending also on my intuition, I take a pause and I invite my client also to pause. And again, I'm talking to the woman who is adore. She's smart, she's brilliant, she's fantastic, she's talented, she's accomplishing like a machine. So in taking that moment to pause can bring her to a little state of dysregulation. Why are we pausing?
Yeah, because a lot of people feel very uncomfortable in that, don't they? It's almost like they don't want to pause.
Yes, yes. And again, depending on the woman and the situation. So I explain, and then we just go into sensational feelings. So because a lot of times they're not in touch with their emotions, if I just ask them like, well, how do you feel in this moment? They'll be like, I don't know. Why are we talking about that? So,
Yeah.
I just ask them, okay, well, just for a moment, come to the body. What is there now? Like sensationally, do you feel tightness? Do you feel openness? Do you feel lightness? Do you feel heaviness? So this is just physical sensations, because we all have physical sensations, even if we don't name the emotions.
Yes.
And then they just start opening up. And then I guide them through different channels of awareness, because sensation is just one of them, because sometimes it happens like, I don't know, I don't feel anything. Then I just go into the channel of imagination, because we all have imagination. And I just say, well, okay, that's fine. But if you did, can you imagine what would be there from what you just said when you were describing that? And then they will start like, well, I guess it would be like contraction, because I hate this thing. So and then it's just using different channels of awareness and somatics, my intuition, also noticing the client and her like ability to go to the body. So I play.
That's a big one, isn't it? Because so many people, it sounds really crazy if people don't understand this work, but so many people are not in their body. They're actually quite disassociated, and especially if they're in the fast lane and the rat race. So they're not really taking that time to kind of center themselves. And you talked to me backstage a little bit about how you get people to move and moving the body. Can you talk me through what that does, and perhaps paint a picture of, you know, what you do when you are moving your body and even getting them to shake out, and what kind of impact that will have for a person, even a viewer or a listener that's hearing what you're saying? You know, what can they expect to get out of that, and how would you suggest that they do something like that?
Yes. I think I will start by first just explaining briefly. So there are 5 channels of awareness that we can digest our emotions through, just like real food that we digest through so many channels of our body. Like we can start with our teeth and the tongue and the mouth and the throat, and then so on. With the emotions, it's also there are many channels. And there is mind. That's where we mostly live. And that's why if we are in the mind and only process what's going on in the mind, we're very limited. And that's why we just get stuck, especially if everything in my mind proves the story I'm not good enough, and I'm still identifying with that. So in what I identify with, I get stuck. So it's kind of like, you know, having the food and just get stuck in the throat. And it doesn't go to get processed and get complete in the process. So then we also have sensations, like I was talking about, just bodily sensations, which are raw. And a lot of times I tell my clients, well, just like if they say, I don't know, I feel sad or whatever. And I just tell them, no. Just describe it to me. What does it feel like in your body to feel sad? Like I'm a person from another planet. I don't know what sad means. Can you describe how you experience sadness in your body? Because that's going to be your energetic signature in the body of how you experience that emotion. So, and that gives us a lot. And that's what usually a lot of times takes us to the inner child work, because a lot of times I would just ask a simple question: what are you feeling right now? Does it feel familiar? And that's when the tears come out. Then we have a breakthrough. Then we have a vulnerable moment. Then we can move through instead of get stuck and do the same thing. So then another channel is the emotions. So, and then we have imagination, just like I already talked about. And we also have posture. So going back to your question, posture or the body is one of the channels. And it's also unconscious, because when we talk, so unconsciously our body already reacts to those emotional components, or like because it's a hormonal release when we talk, and emotions in the body, right? So that's why a lot of times before we even go into some kind of expressive movement, and they talk about something, and I could see like maybe they just do this and they just kind of shrink just unconsciously, because just they talk, and I tell them, okay, can you just stop for a moment? Did you notice what happened with your body? And I just kind of guide them through to help bring the awareness. And they're like, yeah, like, what does it feel like? Well, I don't know, like I feel small. Well, yeah, do you see how it's coming to your body? What if you exaggerate this posture and make it even like more like, what else can you do? Like, imagine like you're really small, but what you just said. And they just go like, oh, like this. Well, can you just stay there for a moment? Can you just let your body process this? So, and that's very, very effective. And I love working with the body because I studied the body quite a bit, but from this emotional perspective. So, because what happens if we get stuck in the mind, nothing happens. We just loop and we just recreate what's predictable. Yes. But when I just stopped her, paused her, and then let her feel it just posturally in the body, physically, like releasing that emotion. And then give her like 30 seconds, 1 minute. And she'll be like, okay, I'm ready to come back. Okay, so how does it feel now? Because emotions is energy, and energy is designed to flow. And just like for expansion and working with women who expand, I like to use this model because everything is about this.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool. There's our audio people won't see this on the podcast.
Oh, yes.
A beautiful dimension of array of colors that's very expansive and very vivid, and it really I can imagine, like, is it the feeling of it and everything like this? But what does this actually do for people? Is it like a coding system, or it's got lots of bright colors?
Well, I just use this as a visual because I believe that represents what we're here for, or in this dimension where I am. So we're here to expand. And our expansion all comes through our consciousness. But consciousness is not just like mind, but it's mind and body and soul. So, and especially the women I work with, they want to create something and they want to have some legacy. It's just what energy they bring. That's the question. So, and everything is about contracting and expanding. Our muscles contract and expand, will lengthen, right? Our emotions contract and expand when we let them. Otherwise, because of our mind, we get stuck in that contraction place. And when we get stuck in the contraction place, we're not expanding. And it's only because we're not feeling safe. And where we're not feeling safe is in the body, mostly.
Yeah. So I also see it as a bit of an intuition thing too. Like I find that if I'm in a situation and my body kind of contracts and does this, then I know that, it's not right. It's almost like this is not a right answer. This is something that I need to face up to. Whereas if I get this kind of, like a peace, It's kind of like the body expanding, isn't it, into this way that can really just allow that flow. So I know that the love element and the 4 stages of love is just a really, really big piece of the work that you do with women. And, what are some of the ways that you really get them to kind of move into that conscious expansion of that feeling?
I lost you.
Upon we had a little short out there. That's okay.
Yes.
We're back. So what would you say is the best thing to do if a person is not feeling that love? They're not feeling that connection and they're in overdrive, burnout, they're not in their body. What would you say to them to do?
Well, first of all, everything is about awareness. And also, how do you get aware? You feel. So it all goes back to the feelings. Because when you feel, you become aware. Because feelings is like a GPS system. They always communicate. So and if you start using them as your communication of your body, because again, like everything we acquired in that childhood and it hasn't been processed, it just became acquired. That's why it becomes an unconscious and kind of subconscious programming, which I believe Carl Jung calls it, like, when it does not come to your consciousness, it becomes your fate. And that's where I was for 50 years. But when you start feeling, you become aware. So that's where you start. And if you do get a good coach or good support, hopefully they can also like start helping you see those blind spots and kind of like become that interpreter in a way. So that's why I've had amazing coaches who have helped me to come to this place. And one of my coaches taught this 4 stages of love. And we all come from the first stage, which is I need love. Because again, when we're children, we have parents and we depend on them. Like they are our gods. And when we are children, again, we're not processing through the mind and the brain, right? Because we're still developing. How we process everything is through feeling. That's why all of that gets actually stored in the body and becomes that energetic signature. That's why a lot of times when we react to something in the present moment, it's never really about the present moment. But when you start becoming aware and connected to your body, and it's the body that reacts, it's like in my relationship with my husband, like when I became aware, I just could feel it. My body goes and it's like, but it's that energetic signature I've been carrying. But because I'm aware and also I know, I could pick up like, he didn't say anything, but the way I interpreted, because how I felt. That's why I always tell my clients, feel and find out. That's it.
Heal to heal. I heard
yes.
that.
So that's the first stage. I need love. So we come from that neediness because we never really been taught how to connect with who we are and own that. And that's what love is all about. I just want to like give you my definition. Love has no agenda. That's why it's not about like loving yourself when you're perfect and everything great and you expand it and da 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 da. No. Love is actually love yourself in all parts, which is essentially, to me, it's the journey to wholeness, which is this. So it's not for us not to contract, but it's actually allowing yourself to contract and then be there, but also have the tools and understandings, whatever you need to expand. And this is all about creating safety, like that point for expansion. It's safety, which is how our nervous system operates. And safety comes from love and only love. Because when you accept yourself in all the ways and also own all your parts and you integrate them instead of denying my not good enough, and then she holds me accountable for everything. So I bring her in. And when with her, I create safety. With her, now I'm whole. With her, I am love, which is really the third stage of love. But the second stage is I choose love. And this is basically where I spend quite a bit of time with my clients, allowing them to shift from I need love to choose love. And in this stage, just briefly, it's all about conscious opening and awakening. It's when you take everything or look at everything from the prism of love.
Wow.
So it's basically you're assuming the best in people and about everything and asking the question, if this is happening, it's not like I'm thinking badly or something else or whatever, or I'm a victim, but it's like, how can I love myself and still go through it? How can I not contract and close my heart and then fight against what's happening? It's actually, yes, how can I accept? Because love is all about accepting and accepting what is. That's why what is still, that's the beautiful part of the body, is that the body is the only system in our whole creation that goes through the actual time and experience of the present moment. That's why if we go in the mind, we're in the future or we're in the past. It's just how our mind works, because our mind is there to protect our survival. That's why it always goes, okay, what I knew before, where are you not safe? And let me protect you. But also in our mind, we have brain and we have conscious brain. So that's when we start working together. So, and then we're moving from I need love to I choose love. That's why that I'm not good enough. What made me like, I need love. I need to prove myself. I need to make myself worthy. Let me do more and let me do more until somebody else comes to me and says, oh, you're worthy. And I still don't believe in that.
I absolutely agree. In fact, I heard a beautiful affirmation. It was through a monk, and I thought it was just so beautiful. And he was saying, I am unconditional love, regardless of whatever happens on the outside to or around me, other people. I am love, and my love is unconditional. And I am unconditionally happy. I am unconditionally peaceful, and I am unconditionally free. And I thought, that was so powerful. And it reminded me of what you're teaching here, because it's a real kind of a wake up and a shake up call for us to own ourselves, own our parts, and really accept and love every part of ourselves without feeling like we have to be anything special and without placing conditions. So, I can't wait to hear what the next stage of love is.
Yes. And yes, that's the thing. You are special because you're here. So, yes, we have I need love, which is, again, all the barriers we built against love from our programming, so to speak. So I choose love. It's when basically I like to tell my clients, if you want to self-coach yourself, just ask one question. If I loved myself fully and completely, what would I do? What would I say? Would I allow this experience? How would I take care of myself? And that's it. You need one question. And you don't need me forever. But when I brought you to that stage, when you actually allow yourself to ask that question and then really seriously answer, that's it. That's the only thing you need.
Yeah, that just covers so much.
Yeah.
That covers so much, because it also covers boundaries, doesn't it? And, being assertive. And, a lot of us are so much in fear of being rejected by others, and we're people pleasing, and you hear this all the time. And yet when you ask yourself that question, you know, what will I say and what will I do in this moment of complete self-love? Paraphrasing it, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And it would definitely brings you back to yourself rather than, oh, what can I say or what can I do that's going to make me feel accepted?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. Yes, absolutely. Because and this is, I believe, love just teaches us to be human, but also to be the essence, the energy, the divine that is within us. And that's that third stage that you were talking about as well. And that is, I am love. And how I see this, I am is one of the most powerful statements we can create, because what we say after that, we become. That's why I am is consciousness. And everything that we put after, we actually create, because from the divine consciousness, we also have a power of choice. And we can choose who we want to be. And more we connect with our energy, with our body, more we start consciously creating our own makeup, our own energy of who we are meant to be here by the divine creation. So that's why I am basically has the attributes of the divine. That's why, from what I've learned, I am not peaceful, but I am peace. I am not loving, but I am love. I am not safe, but I am safety, because I believe now, and that's the fourth stage of love. Love is all is love. And when you start seeing everything like that and everyone like that, and all is love, if we just look at the nature, like that's the best thing I can say. If I find it in the nature, then I know it's within us. So if you look at the beautiful nature that we have, the sky, the ocean, the greens, the flowers, and the varieties. Can you find like 50, 100 varieties of pink flowers? Because to me, that's the representation of the divine abundance. And all that is out there, we carry those attributes within ourselves. That's why I don't have to work to be peaceful. I'm already peace. I just need to go back and really embody that and connect with it, so that I can go and expand and create whatever from peace. Because going back to where we started, my I'm not good enough, it's internal. That's why there is no amount of external stuff that I can do will ever make me good enough. It's me going back and actually recognizing and embodying who I am by the divine creation, which I am that, what we also see in the nature and in the world. And we also see in the nature that nature is not just perfect. We have like natural fires, earthquakes, and all of that. Yes.
That's true. That is such a good point. You know, the other element, as you were speaking, it kind of raised up a question as well. And that is that, you know, so many of these beautiful women that you are helping, and you're utilizing your somatic healing, your, you know, your chakra healing, your love techniques, and, you know, all of the feminine energy embodiment practices, and, you know, just bringing them back to this. I understand too that you do a lot around the inner child. And of course, you and I both know that that's where it all starts, right? Like, that's your story. That's where you start. That's what's given you your passion, your ambition. And, you know, that's led you to being chosen for who you are and what you stand for today. So when you're kind of bringing people through these practices and you're looking at the inner child, are you taking this back and gifting this to the inner child? Or, you know, what is the kind of format that you run through to actually, you know, heal that inner child?
I think it's just, again, awareness is the first step. Because when you're in the protection mode, because you've been vulnerable before, and again, like I said before, your heart is contracted, just bringing the awareness into that space and allowing women to experience that. That's where the work starts. And yes, my clients often cry in the sessions, especially in the beginning, but it's only because they forgot how to feel or cry, because they did not allow themselves, because they're strong and independent and they can do things and they can fix problems. And that's why when they show up like this in life and everybody knows them like that, again, they're not opening up vulnerably to come and talk. So that's why I become that safe space for them. Because for other people, they expect the best out of them and they expect to fix this stuff and they expect to do everything. But here, they can actually relax and soften and come to the body. And all of those tears, they usually do come from some kind of inner child story that they haven't even accessed for a long time, or not being even aware to the surface. It's basically, I'm bringing them to their unconscious, to their conscious, and then we mold. It's like that alchemy. So we take this metal and we mold that into gold so that they can shine all their full colors. Because I believe that's why we have the chakra systems in our body, and they all have the different beautiful colors. And again, if you look outside in the divine creation, we have the rainbow.
Yeah.
So it's just a reminder and a reflection back to us that is within you, and you're actually meant to shine all different bright colors. And this is actually your natural state. The other state, that's why I like the sacral chakra, where I spend most time with my clients, because one of the hardest questions I can ask them, what do you want? What brings you joy? This is when it becomes like, I don't know, I haven't done this. I have so much to do. But the sacral chakra, this is like one of the blocking points. It's actually natural within us to have fun, to feel joy, because guess how we expand? We expand from joy. We create from joy.
Yes.
Yeah. And when we're like this, it just becomes not so much fun. And the body is not designed to be like this, especially the heart. So the heart is designed because I know you love the work of Joe Dispenza, and that's what I learned from him and his work, that the heart electromagnetic space is like 5,000 times more magnetic than the brain and the mind. So the heart is huge. And
the
imagine
heart,
creating with this.
I actually was just teaching on this recently, where the heart brain is really the center of everything that can create our best life. Because 9 times out of 10, when we're thinking, we're not consciously thinking about our thoughts. They're just with us, and quite often we'll have the monkey mind that is just telling stories and repetitive things that are happening from our pasts. But when we come back, as you say, to ourself and to our heart space, that heart brain and just bringing, and I mean, just listening to you is just such a beautiful experience, because I know that everybody that's listening, whether you're walking as you're listening to a podcast, or whatever you're doing, there's a sense that your words are bringing us into that field of groundedness and deep love, and connecting us into things that, like nature and the universe, where really your expression of the rainbow and, just all of those beautiful colors of the world. And, I want to kind of spoil our viewers and our listeners a little, and offer a little snippet of something that you would like to bring to the audience, just to showcase a little bit of your zone of genius. So I would love to hand over to you to actually give you the floor on any piece of your wisdom that you are prepared to give in love for the work that you do.
Yes. Well, I know we kind of had one thing we planned, but I had a different one.
I'm so
Okay.
happy to hear that. I love that. I just want to say I love that because it is in the moment and it's real.
Yes.
So as you're listening to this, this is a true download and it's going to make it even more special.
Well, I think it's going to be also helpful to, again, go back to that awareness. And if you want, join me in this self-test. You can have a pen and paper if you want, but you also don't have to. You can just like close your eyes and make a list in your head, okay? Because it's going to be a test. So the test is this. In your mind or with pen and paper, write down or think, who do you love? Start making a list, and I can give you like a few seconds here. Who do you love? And the list goes on and whatever. This is one of the most profound questions that I ask of my clients. All right, so we have a list. All right, so yeah, open your eyes. You have your list in your head?
I do. That was really easy for me.
Okay. So who is number one?
You want me to share?
Yeah.
Well, look, it's not that I'm favoring this person. Okay, this is just an unconditional love, and it was the first thing that came to my mind. It's my beautiful grand boy. He's a little 4-year-old. He's my first. I guess I do have grandchildren, but the first one in my bloodline, descendant, and we're like soulmates. So he came up in my mind.
Beautiful. And now, are you on the list?
I was. I actually, and I know, look, if you had asked me that 10 years ago, no way would have I been on my list. But you know what? I went through everyone, but I will say that I was last. But I still made it on the list.
Yes, well, let's celebrate you in your journey of 10 years to actually making yourself on the list. Even if it's the last, it's already progress. So yes, congratulations. I'm glad that you are coming to your own awakening and embodying love that you are, because there is no other way. So love always chooses you. So that's why it's always safe. But our mind makes us think that love hurts. But anyway, go back to the test and why it's so profound, because again, speaking of those women, and I was one of them as well. So if you are not on the list and you're not number one either, then what happens? So if you are pursuing that, if you're pursuing that career and whatever, so what happens is this, it's either them or me, right? So which creates that, again, separation. They're important, I'm not. They're worth of love, I'm not. My dreams don't matter, but theirs is. So, and this is that mentality and also that I need love stage that we start with until we awake, is that we have that sense of separatedness. And when we're separate, it doesn't feel good because that's not who we are. Because we're always connection and we are connected to love within and everywhere and with everyone. So also with the boundaries, if you're not on the list, what happens with the boundaries? They're not going to be met, because if you're not meeting your own boundaries, you're not teaching other people how to treat you and how to love you. That's another big component of it.
And isn't that huge? I mean, that's been a really big one for me. Boundaries.
Yes. But that's what I always say. You don't need to set boundaries with others. You just need to set boundaries with yourself and love yourself. And essentially, by the way how you show up and how you treat yourself, you're teaching other people. And they know, like, that's how that's what always happens. I work only with one woman. I don't do couples and all of that, but their whole life changes. They come back and they say, like, they have great relationship with their husbands. They're not doing all this great stuff, and he changed, like the way he treats me now. It's so crazy. It's so different. And I haven't even had serious conversations with him. So it's
that is an ironic, energetic, profound phenomena where a person changes themselves and their world around them changes, and they go, oh, my husband changed, or you know, my next door neighbor changed, but actually it was the inner healing work. I'll never get they'll never cease to amaze me.
Because when you get to know yourself, you start voicing your needs, your wants. You actually letting them know who you are instead of that facade or the mask. So in going back to the test, so essentially you live in the world, it's either me or them. Again, I have to be some kind of perfect, some kind of good, some kind of whatever the standards that you build. And then when they come, then I have to prioritize them. But when you go through the stages and connect with the love that you are, you start asking one of the most powerful questions. How can I be me and them? How can I pursue my dreams and take care of my kids? How can I love myself and love my husband? How can I, that and becomes the unity. And again, when you are in and you matter, your heart is open because that's who you are. Like, you matter, even if you have 5 kids, 4 kids, or whatever. So and the kids also see you. And when you come with that contraction and you know it doesn't feel good, you're not going to show up in your good energy. Like, I know I've been there so many times. I wish I could go back and, like, you know, return those stages, but I didn't know any better. Like, my intentions were good, but because I was putting myself and abandoning myself, even though I was taking care of others and being responsible and all of that, the energy behind that was lack. The energy behind was sacrifice. But that's not who we are. That's not what we are meant here to do. So that's why love connects. Love is wholeness. When you show up in your wholeness, you actually give to others from overflow. That's why I always have the image of the fountain. So when you go in and do your work, you come out.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
How can I be me and them? Because I'm in this overabundant flow. I took care of myself. I invested in myself. I fulfilled myself. I did. And when I'm talking about self-love, it's not about bubble bath. No, it's about creating a very intimate into me relationship with yourself.
Yeah.
You take a bubble bath or you don't.
Yes.
And when you come from that place, it's different. You actually give from your heart.
And that's beautiful. And I love the fountain and also the into me, and that brings me to a word that I was taught by a pastor, which is inspiration. And inspiration is also in spirit. So it's the internal element. So as within, so without. So beautiful, so absolutely beautiful. So is there any more to that little sequence that you have to wrap it up, Jewels? Or, you know, is that, I mean, there's so much in there, and I know you're just giving a snippet that is enough to, I know I've changed my state just listening to you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you for receiving and also giving me this opportunity to share my passion. No, I think it's just one of the profound tests that I do with my clients, because my clients are they also read the self-development books and do affirmations. And a lot of times this is what happens. And maybe if you're listening and it's you, just know it's normal and common. I give them this test, and they also put everybody else, but they're not even on the list. And then I give them the results, and I have this instant like, no, but I love myself. I know I do. This, I know I've been doing this, and I know I love myself. No, and they're like disapproving and arguing and all, I let them and all of that. And then I just say, but this is it. This is your test.
Yeah.
Knowing is only one part of this whole story. And again, we're good in the mind. We understand it should be done, but then embodying it, which is again through the feeling, which again, inviting love in, because that's what I always say. When you open your heart to love, then it opens you to love.
I love that is just incredible.
When they go through all of this and then come down, they find it like, oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
So if you're doing arguing and all of that, just know most likely you're not in the embodiment stage, but you're in the stage of awareness. And with this self-test, it just really brings it to the surface. And if it triggers you, welcome to the world. Because when triggers, when you pay attention to them, they can be your breadcrumbs to your freedom and inner peace, and also inner love that you are. Yeah. So that's why, just wanted to mention that. And also going back to what we were discussing about the heart and the mind, and you were talking also about that electromagnetic field. So the beautiful part of the chakras and how, those yogis thousands of years ago figured it out. So we have a throat, and no wonder it's in between, because it's the bridge and it's a communication channel. So that's why we block and we're not listening. Guess what the poor mind is going to do? It's going to do its job, because its job to protect us, to survive, because that's what it's here to do, especially that survival part of the brain that is pretty much active all the time, because survival always wins. And if I'm communicating in my heart, I need to protect, love hurts, don't feel rejected, don't feel abandoned, all of that. Guess what I'm communicating? Guess what my mind is doing? Thank you very much. That's why this is a communication channel. And a lot of clients that I work with, and it's also myself, because I didn't know how to express myself, because I was so disconnected. They have all that clearing of the throat going on. This is like one of the blocked areas, which also tells me like, oh, this doesn't talk, so this is gonna talk, kind of like in that weird way, right?
Yeah, and I feel that is just so that's such a vital piece as well, especially in our industry, where people really need to have their voice, and they need to show up and speak their truth. And so many of people in our industry, they've got such a beautiful passion in them and such a beautiful gift. And this is where the, real mission of my show comes from. It's people like you, divine coaches. And there are so many out there, and they're kind of trapped in their own kind of fear of rejection, self-rejection. And that's why I feel that this is not just going to be great for that passionate woman who is very ambitious, but the coaching community and people that really require to show up online, because when they can come back and know that they are enough and really center back into themselves, that is when their whole world is going to come out and expand. So you've been listening to the Expansion Love Coach, and if you're ready to embody your higher self, and when you are ready to literally come into the gifting of this beautiful woman, if you want to experience that incredible self-love, we're going to tell you exactly how you can contact Jewels, and what a jewel you are, what an absolute treasure you have been and blessing to all of our listeners here. So, Jewels, we're going to drop the links. So for those of you either watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify, the link that you can connect with Jewels is in our show notes. So go ahead, click on that link. And I'm going to ask you the last question that I always love to ask. And it's a question that is going to kind of go back to the future. So if you were waking up tomorrow morning and you thought to yourself, oh, there is just one thing, because your client who's praying for you really is listening in and taking all this in with so much delicious yumminess that they want to just be in your space. And you woke up tomorrow morning and you thought, oh, I just want to share this last piece. If I would love to just say this. If you had last words that you would really love to share, but you're going to share them because I'm asking you in this very weird, strange way, what would be your wisdom? What would you say to your listeners, our listeners, and people that really find this podcast because they needed to hear it?
Yes. Thank you for letting me be here on this show and also speak my voice, because I would have not been able to do any of this even just a few years ago. So I appreciate this opportunity, and you're a beautiful and amazing and profound host. I appreciate your questions and how you were preparing me for all of this. It was really beautiful, and it's so important. You don't just like jump. So Terri actually prepared me with her magic as well. So the last words, choose love, because love always chooses you, and you matter.
Yeah,
And
what last words? I mean, that just says it all. And you know, what can I say? Your gifting of your experience, your incredible journey, and the way that you embody love, and you are an ambassador, because you know what it's like not to feel it. You know what it's like to be the burnt out woman. You know what it's like to be overdoing. And so to be able to bring in this just incredible experience and share this, and just opening up, I'm sure that a whole world of intuition opens up for this, divine woman as you're bringing it. So I just want to thank you so much for your generosity in everything you've shared. And yes, as I say, for those of you listening, make sure you click on the link and you connect with this incredible lady. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Well, that was amazing.
Thank you for joining us on another empowering episode of our show, where we have explored through this various topic, along with all the exciting new topics that we bring every week to enhance your personal mastery of excellence. Now, I'd love you to do me a favor. In fact, be part of the Legacy 1 million that I have in the vision for 2028. If you know someone who really would benefit from this recording, from this episode, please share it with them. And when you subscribe, you get notified every week of our episode as soon as it drops. So let's do that legacy thing. Let's share, let's care, let's enrich, And I look forward to bringing you another week of the most enriching content. So until next time, stay inspired, stay awesome, and keep on mastering your excellence.